Alright, what's up everyone? Steel Orange here, and today what we're going to be doing is our intro to the mid lane guide. I've already got my jungle and solo guides out. Today it's going to be the mid. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the openings in the mid lane, just what you're going to do at the very beginning of the game, and then go into the laning phase, just talk about kind of how that progresses, and then we're going to progress into talking about the team fight phase and sort of the different characters that you'd play in the mid lane. And so I'm going to sort of categorize them into different roles, kind of like I did with my other videos, and kind of tell you about what those roles are in the team fighting in the late game stage of the game. So, to start, we're going to talk about the builds. Just at the very beginning, I'm not going to tell you how to build mages because tons of mages, tons of different ways to build them. But at the very beginning, there's one of two starter items that you're usually going to buy. It's either going to be Soulstone or Vampiric Shroud. Right now, Soulstone is the most common pickup for most mages, just because it allows you to clear really fast. But for some mages, Vampiric Shroud may be a viable option. Most of the time, you're going to pick up Soulstone. And then, as far as the rest of your gold, you can either grab tier 1 of boots, you can grab Lost Artifact, you can grab the Imperial Helmet right here. Those are all sort of common starter items that you can buy. And then some health and mana pots to get you going. And then you're usually going to buy either beads or Sanctuary as your relic. And then the first place you're going to head off to is the red buff. The red buff on this side of the map is going to be on your left. If you're on the other side, it's going to be on your right. It's right there. So your support player, and your ADC are all going to head to the red buff at the beginning of the game. And as soon as it spawns at 5 seconds, you're going to go ahead and clear that as fast as you can. I'm not actually going to clear it, but that's what you do. And then as the mid laner, you're going to go ahead and pick up that red buff, and then you're going to walk straight to mid lane as fast as you can. Usually you're going to get here at about the same time as the other mid laner, right before the wave gets here, so you're going to clear the wave as fast as you can. And your goal here is to out-clear the other mid laner, because what that allows you to do is then rotate into the jungle over here. Your jungler is going to be coming over from the blue buff over there, or from solo lane. Oh, it didn't ping, but I wanted to ping. But anyway, they come over here, and you guys can clear these mid camps together, and if the fire creeps are still up, you can get those as well before heading back over to mid lane. From there, you again want to clear as fast as you can, and if the other team hasn't gotten the other mid camps yet, then after you do that wave, you're going to go over to the mid camps right here, clear those as fast as you can. From then, it's sort of this back and forth between lane and camps where you're going to be following your jungler around. You're going to clear a wave here, then you're going to go to your back camps right there, you're going to clear those, then you're going to come back to mid lane, then you're going to go to your back camps over there, you're going to clear those, come back to mid lane. And at that point, once you've done that, you're probably going to be level 5 or close to level 5, and you're going to have cleared most of your camps. So at that point, there's a few more options for what you want to do. You can clear more waves, you can try to fight in mid lane, get some kills, you can rotate to a side lane, try and get a kill with your jungler. It kind of opens the map up, and then not too late after that, you're probably going to want to back for the first time and start buying some items. That's kind of your general opening for your mid laner. After that, laning in the mid lane is honestly just a lot of trying to just keep your farm up, make sure that you keep bouncing between clearing waves in mid to going and finding a camp with your jungler, coming back to mid, clearing some more, rotating at good times, getting kills in other lanes to help get the other lanes ahead, get you ahead by getting kills, and just trying to get ahead for the late game. Something you want to keep in mind in the mid lane that it can a trap that it's easy to fall into is you never want to not be doing anything. It can be really easy to just sort of turn into a bot in the mid lane where you just clear a wave or whatever, ooh, I cleared the wave, and then you just kind of chill here because you cleared the wave, and you just kind of wait under tower for the next wave to come up, and then you go and you clear wave again, woohoo, I cleared wave, and then you sit back here. But you're losing out on a lot of XP, because if you are clearing waves when your jungler's not there and your jungler's clearing camps while you're just sitting here botting in mid lane, then you're not getting some of the XP from the jungler, your jungler's not getting some XP from mid lane, and it's a lot more efficient to share that XP. So you want to make sure that you're with your jungler a lot, and that you guys are always rotating to camps and then back to mid lane and always doing something. If you're not doing something, then you're doing something wrong, because there's always something to do in Smite. So you want to make sure that there's something to do. If there's really no camps anywhere to clear, then there's probably a lane that you can rotate on to try to fight and look for a kill. Maybe you can start setting up for the Gold Fury, you can ward around there, but you always want to be doing something. So, honestly, that's basically it as far as the laning stage. Obviously, you want to try to get kills if you can. You want to be careful not to get picked off, because, it's really just about getting ahead. And a lot of times, as the mid laner, you're going to be playing a mage, so you're going to be one of the main magical damage dealers for your team in the late game team fight stage. So you want to make sure that you're as far ahead as possible, or at the very least not behind, so you can supply that damage that your team needs. But that's pretty much the basics of the mid lane laning phase. It wasn't as complex as some of the other ones that I've done, but it's pretty much all I want to talk about for there. So now what I'm going to do is go back into the main menu. We're going to go to the character screen, and we're going to go through the characters and talk about the different categories that characters fall into for the team fighting stage. This is going to take a little bit longer because there are a lot of mages in this game. A lot of people you can play in the mid lane. So there's going to be more categories and more characters to talk about. So I want to make sure that I get through everything. But basically, for now, while we're waiting, I'm going to talk about team fighting in general as a mage. Because when you play mid, you're going to most likely be playing a mage in the late game when you're team fighting. So as a mage, you're one of the 2 ranged damage dealers on your team, with the other one usually being the hunter, the ADC. So your job is really in team fights to stay alive and stay safe and then do a lot of damage for your team. So mid is a lot about positioning. You want to make sure that you're positioned to the back of the fight, away from where other people can do a lot of damage to you, away from where you can get locked down. Because it's very important for you to stay alive, and it's very hard for you to stay alive if the other team gets on top of you. So you want to make sure you position yourself well compared to where your teammates are. Kind of use your tankier characters as a shield, a front line in front of you, to keep you safe, and just stay on the outskirts of the fight and just keep throwing out your damage at a distance. That's usually going to be what you want to do as a mage. But now to get more specific, we're going to talk about the individual characters and kind of their more specific roles in team fighting. So first category that I'm going to make here, I've done this with my other guide videos and just too, the categories for the mages is going to be we're going to call them the carry mages. So I kind of talked about how mages are your late game magical carries, but that's not necessarily true for all of them. For some of them that fits more than others. So when I say the carry mages, what I'm talking about are the ones that are very oriented toward just get to late game and you're going to do way more damage than anybody else on the field. And you're essentially going to carry the fight as long as you stay alive. So your sole purpose is to just do insane amounts of damage in a team fight as much as you can, burst characters down really fast, and just decimate the other team. Like you're just there to do a lot of damage. So the first one is going to be Anubis. So Anubis isn't very good because he has very low mobility. But one thing that he brings to the table is he has a lot of damage. His 3 does a ton of damage. His ultimate is one of the highest damaging abilities in the game. And he's got a nice form of CC in his 2 that allows him to wrap people up and lock them down so that he can secure all that damage. But like I said, he's very immobile, so like I mentioned, that positioning is very important on most mages. It's especially important on Anubis, because if you get caught out of position at all, you are going to die. Alquan we're not going to talk about because he's not really a mage, he's more of an assassin. Next one is Kronos. So Kronos is almost considered a hunter, just because he's one of the few mages that are based around auto attacks, more so than abilities. But he's still very much a late game carry. When he gets to late game, his auto attacks hit really, really hard. His abilities hit very, very hard, and he does an insane amount of damage. So again, just kind of focusing on getting as fed as possible with Kronos, and then just staying in the back of the team fight with him, and dishing out just kind of this sustained damage to all the members of the other team. Same thing with Freya. Freya is the hardest late game magical carry in this game. If you get to late game with Freya, if you don't fall too far behind and you get your full build online, you are going to out damage every other character in the game. It is absurd how much damage Freya does. All you have to do is press 2 and hold right trigger, or left mouse button, depending whether you play console or PC or whatever. Just hold your auto attack button and you're just going to destroy everybody. You out damage everyone. It's ridiculous. She does so much damage. Next. Habwa. Yeah, we'll add Habwa to this. Habwa has a little bit of a stronger earlier game than some of the other characters that open this list, but he still very much has the potential to one-shot people and burst characters down really, really, really fast in the late game and do a lot of damage. So I would definitely put him in this list. Giannis. All right, we're going to talk about Giannis here for a second. Giannis fits into this category as the late game carry because he does an absurd amount of damage with his 2. But Giannis kind of fits in every category because Giannis is the best mage in the game because he does everything. All right, so Giannis has his second ability is one of the highest damaging abilities in the game. His ultimate does an insane amount of damage. His 1 does pretty good damage if you catch someone in the portal. He also has insane utility because he can portal himself and teammates through the wall with multiple different abilities. He has a slow. He can speed up his team. He does so many things. He has a global ultimate. Janus does everything. So Janus fits into every category, and high damage is certainly one of them. Kukulkan. Kukulkan is just there to do damage. I mean, you know, like these other characters. I mean, his 1 does a lot of damage, his 3 does a lot of damage, and his ultimate is, again, one of the highest damaging abilities in the game. You're going to hear that a lot from this category. So again, Kukulkan, you just want to get fed. You want to get your stacks online and just get to the late game and do a lot of damage with him. And just, again, he's another very immobile character, so you want to make sure you're very far in the back of the team fight and that you stay safe. I'll say Poseidon. Poseidon is very oriented around his combo with his Whirlpool into his Kraken. It does a lot of damage, and it's a very burst-oriented character, so he is sort of a magical late-game carry, but very much, he's sort of the guy that you want to hit like a big ultimate, a big combo on a lot of members of the team at once to really turn a team fight on its head. Poseidon can really control a team fight if he hits a big Kraken. Raijin, we're going to put Raijin in this category. Raijin has a lot of burst damage. His 2 combined with basically any other ability that he has is going to do an insane amount of damage. He has his ultimate that can hit the entire team for a lot of damage multiple times, and is just, again, brings a lot of damage to the table in the late game. Scylla. Scylla is one of the quintessential, I've been saying that word a lot lately. She's one of the gods you think of when you think of late game magical carry. She does a ton of damage with her Crush, a ton of damage with her Root. Her ultimate is one of the highest damaging abilities in the game, and it can reset if you get a kill. So Scylla can win a team fight by herself if you hit a lot of abilities. And again, it's just all you got to do with Scylla is just stay really far back, away from any sort of danger, and just at the max distance possible, just throw out your abilities and do as much damage as you can. Soul kind of fits into that Freya Chronos category where she's more of an auto attack oriented character. But same deal, you just want to get her fed, get her to late game, do a lot of damage. We'll put Vulcan in this category. Vulcan does tons of damage. He has 4 damaging abilities. All of them are really strong, and his ultimate, again, hits very, very hard. Zeus, same thing, 4 damaging abilities. He has a great combo with his throwing down a shield and then bouncing his lightning off it that can do a lot of damage to the team. And then also, if you have any sort of setup that groups people together, Zeus's ultimate can be devastating to the other team, early, mid, or late game. It doesn't even matter. And again, he's kind of like Anubis. He's very immobile. So you want to make sure that you stay very safe with him. All right, so that is it for that category. The next category that we're going to talk about is going to be the control mages. So control mages are still going to be mages that do damage, because every mage does a decent amount of damage. But these aren't going to be the highest damage mages in the game by any stretch of the imagination. But what they are going to do is offer a little bit more crowd control, a bit more of that sort of presence in the team fights. So even though they're not going to necessarily be one-shotting characters or just running through an entire team, they're going to offer help to your team in the form of crowd control. So they're going to do some damage and then also allow some setup for the rest of your team to follow up. So the first one of those is going to be Agni. Agni has a very readily available stun with his 1. If you combo that with any of his other abilities, it's going to stun anybody that's caught in that radius, and it's a pretty big radius, so you can set up a lot of combos, not only with your own abilities, but with your teammates in that regard. So Agni is very good for control. We're going to throw Opwash in this category, because he does decent damage, but he's not great. He's really just not in a very good spot right now. Nobody's really playing Opwash. But he does have a slow, he has a stun, and he has another form of control that people don't really think of when they think of crowd control, but his ultimate is a very good zone controller. It's like it denies an area. Like if you want to block off an area, you throw down Opwash's ult there, and people will just be afraid to run through it most of the time. So that's another form of control that's sort of undervalued, I think, a lot, and Opwash brings that to the table. Not Chronos. Yeah, we'll talk about... No, actually, not going to talk about Hades. Nox. Nox is the control mage. She has a silence that she can throw on the ground that silences any enemies in that radius, and also a root. And so when you combine a root and a silence, it's basically a stun. Does a lot of damage as well. But Nox's main thing is that she has this ability to silence anybody on the team at a moment's notice. She can root them, and then she also has her ultimate, which reduces the damage that the enemies that are hit by it deal by, I think, 40%, which is also great in team fights. So she's a decent damage character, but she brings a lot more to the table than just damage in terms of the different crowd control that she offers. Nuwa, we'll put Nuwa on. Actually, all right, Nuwa's kind of in 2 categories. I probably should have talked about Nuwa in the burst damage, or like the high damage category, just because she has insane burst damage with the combo between throwing down her minions and then blowing them up with her 3. Lots of burst. But Nuwa brings some other things to the table too. So she has a similar kind of zone or area denial that I talked about with Opwash with her 1, where she can just throw that mist down, and it will kind of block off an area or kind of control the movement of the other team. She also has a stun with her combo on her 2 and her 3 that offers some control in a team fight and can really set up for your teammates. So she kind of fits into this category too. Yeah, I think that's it for that. The next category are going to be the utility mages. So these are similar to the control mages, but it's just going to be, yeah, it's going to be mages that offer a lot, that offer things besides damage to your team, but not necessarily just crowd control. But before I go into that, I should mention Hades because Hades fits into the crowd control category. So Hades is another one. Hades has a silence, he has a slow, and he has a sort of suck people in ability, whatever you want to call that kind of crowd control. So he has a lot of crowd control for his team too, so he kind of fits in that category. But as far as utility mages, the first one I want to talk about is Chang'e. Chang'e does kind of a little bit of everything. She's a little bit tanky because of the way you build her. She's got her CC immune and damage immune ability. She does a little bit of damage. She has a little bit of healing. And she even can, I think, she has a little bit of mana regen built into her kit too. So Chang'e just kind of does a little bit of everything. She's kind of a hybrid, so you can call her a utility mage in that. And she has a stun too. She has some CC. The main utility mage that I'm thinking of, actually there's two. One of them is Isis. Isis is great because she has a stun and a silence, which are good forms of crowd control. She has great clear, and then she has her ultimate, which is her main utility item when I think of Isis. The great thing about Isis's ultimate is that it's great for securing objectives, because the more damage that is done within the radius of the ultimate, the more it charges up to do more damage and also heal your teammates more. So if you throw this down on like a Gold Fury when it's about halfway dead or a little less than that, or the same thing with a Fire Giant, and then you pour all your damage into that and you get it to like pretty close to dead but not quite, and pop that ultimate, anybody that's standing next to that objective trying to steal it from you is going to get obliterated by the damage from your ultimate. You're going to kill the objective with the damage from your ultimate, and you're also going to heal up your teammates and help them regenerate all that damage that they took from trying to kill that objective. So great objective secure. Isis, one of the best objective securing gods in the game. Next one, I talk about Janus. Janus is everything. Janus is one of the best utility mages in the game. I mean, he's got the portal for himself and for his teammates. He's impossible to kill. He slows the other team a lot. He speeds up his own team, which is great utility, and he has a global ultimate that can help him and his teammates rotate across the map at a moment's notice. So, awesome utility mage. Yeah, I think that's it for utility. And then the last, I guess we kind of have two more. So you'll notice some of these categories are overlapping. It's because the mages are a very dynamic sort of class of characters, and some of them kind of fill different roles. So I know I'm mentioning mages in multiple categories sometimes, and I'm going to do that because some of them fit different roles depending on how you want to play them, how you want to build them, and what your team comp is. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are healers. So the healers are pretty self-explanatory. These are the characters that do a lot of healing to your team. So I'll just talk about those. The first one is Aphrodite. Aphrodite also kind of falls into the utility category, but her main thing is that anybody that she's attached to with her kiss ability, whenever she uses her fluttering birds thing, I can't remember which ability it is, she heals herself and her teammates, and then she also protects her teammates with her ultimate as well as herself, which is a great utility item. So kind of a hybrid between that utility and healing mage. Same thing with Chang'e. Again, I talked about her. She has a little bit of healing, and she does a couple of other things pretty well. We can even mention Hades here. Hades has a pretty strong heal, but it really heals himself more than his teammates. It can heal his teammates, but they have to be right next to him at the right time. So not as prevalent as of a team healing kind of ability, but it can be if you know how to use it right. Hell is the main healer. She was nerfed really, really hard because in Season 2 her healing was so potent that it was completely broken, and she was getting banned every game because her healing was so strong. But Hell is one of the strongest healers in the game. The problem is that it's kind of the only thing that she does really well at all. And with anti-heal being so potent in this meta, it really kind of hurts Hell. Ra, on the other hand, Ra is the big healer that is actually relevant in this meta right now. And the reason is because he does heal really well, but he also does damage. So teams can't necessarily, if they go full into the anti-heal route, then they're sacrificing some damage in other places, and Ra brings a lot of damage to the table, so that can sort of put them behind in the team fight. Whereas if they don't focus on that healing, then Ra can just, like, the whole team can just attack and then retreat when everybody gets low, and Ra can just heal up the whole team and then continue to siege objectives. And it just makes those long engagements go so much better for whichever team Ra is on. Yeah, that's it. And then the last category, which is going to be a small one, are going to be the hybrid tank categories, I guess we'll call them. This is going to be, we'll call them the tank category. So no mages are really truly tanks, but these mages I'm going to talk about are a little bit more tanky than others, either naturally because of their base stats or their passive ability or something like that, or just because of the way their kit lends itself to a certain playstyle that requires you to build a little bit tankier. So the first one is Aphrodite. Aphrodite's passive makes her tankier. It gives her more defense based on how many people are around her, so she's kind of tanky. She also has a pretty defensive kit that allows her to stay alive pretty well. Chang'e is just a character that doesn't do a lot of burst damage. She's not the highest damage character in the game, so she generally is built with a little bit more health and a little bit more defense. So she's not usually going to be the squishiest mage on the field. Hades actually used to be a guardian, and they changed his class to a mage because he did too much damage and wasn't quite tanky enough to be a guardian. But he's also does a little too little damage and is a little too tanky to be considered a mage really. So he's kind of stuck in between. He's almost like a magical warrior. But Hades is usually built with a little bit of tankiness because Hades has to be in the middle of the fight to get anything done. Like, he can't do damage from a distance. He has to be on top of you. Like, literally, it's impossible for him to do damage at a distance. So you have to build Hades somewhat tanky, or else he'll just die right away. So Hades tends to be pretty tanky. Let's look here. Oh, and the last one is Zhongqi. Zhongqi has a passive ability that gives him protections based on how many stacks he builds up just by using his kit. And then his ultimate doubles those stacks. And then also the same thing as kind of with Hades. With Zhongqi, you really have to be right on top of people to get any real sort of damage off. And his ultimate, you really want to be right in the middle of the fight. So you want him to be tanky enough so that he can actually survive long enough to do his damage and not just immediately die at the beginning of a fight and get nothing done. So that was kind of a lot. But there are a lot of mages. There's, like 25 mages in this game? Yeah, that's a lot to categorize. But hopefully I gave you guys a decent idea of just how mid lane works, and then sort of what you're looking to do with the different mages as you progress from the earlier part of the laning stage into the team fights. And based on what character you're choosing, what your kind of role is going to be in that game, what your teammates are going to expect out of you. So yeah, as always, if you liked the video, please let me know in the comments. Hit that like button, subscribe. If you have any suggestions or any other videos you'd like to see, just let me know in the comments and I will make those happen. And of course, as always, check out my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/steelorange3398. And that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching. Steel Orange out.